he was signed to a $28 million endorsement contract and did nothing. Nobody has proof of anything that he did. Zero things. No likes, no retweets, no posts, no tree planting.
Kawhi Leonard has suddenly become the face of what might be the NBA's most jaw-dropping scandal to date. The star forward has just received a lifetime suspension after being tied to a $28 million fraud scheme. And he's not the only one implicated. Here's how it unfolded. The trail of documents that brought it all to light. Kawhi Leonard, the reserved two-time NBA champion, long considered one of sport's most enigmatic figures, now sits at the heart of what could end up as the most destructive salary cap scandal in league history. Yet the tale doesn't start with Leonard himself. Instead, it begins with the downfall of a company hardly known until intense scrutiny exposed its collapse. In March 2025, a green banking startup called Aspiration declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy, leaving behind broken promises, swindled investors, and a creditor list that would eventually unravel one of the most complex frauds professional sports has ever seen.
What I wanted to do was find Aspiration's bankruptcy filing. And I gotta now reach over to this file over here to get this. Is this it? Yes, this is it. In this packet, there is a clue.
Investigative journalist Pablo Torre uncovered a detail hidden deep within those bankruptcy filings that shifted everything. KL2 Aspire LLC owed $7 million. When Torre followed this unremarkable company name through California's Secretary of State database, he stumbled upon a connection that triggered a 7-month probe, producing over 3,487 pages of records, agreements, and proof. The LLC was linked directly to Kawhi Leonard, registered under his jersey number 2, and tied to what turned out to be the final part of a massive endorsement arrangement with a firm claiming it would save the planet through tree planting. But this was far from a standard endorsement contract. It was crafted in such a way that even the sharpest legal experts would pause. To grasp the weight of this find, you have to look at the company at the center, Aspiration. Launched in 2013 by 2 Harvard alumni, Andre Chernay, the youngest speechwriter in U.S. White House history, and Joe Sandberg, a private equity veteran who had earned millions with projects like Blue Apron. Aspiration branded itself as the eco-friendly option to big banks. Their model was sleek yet powerfully persuasive. Every customer transaction meant planting trees to cancel out carbon footprints, letting consumers feel proud of their impact while filling company coffers.
Let's say, purely hypothetically, that you had 3,487 pages of documents, and that added up to a single tree. Aspiration, what they did was offer to balance that out by arranging the planting of one tree in your name, replacing the tree that you...
Aspiration's celebrity endorsement strategy was beyond ambitious, pulling together what could be called the Avengers of climate change. Robert Downey Jr. lent his Iron Man voice to their ads. Leonardo DiCaprio invested and joined the advisory board. And Drake not only invested, but praised their vision in Rolling Stone. Even stars like Orlando Bloom, Cindy Crawford, and her daughter Kaya Gerber became part of their star-studded lineup. The company's ability to attract A-list stars quickly turned into massive financial support. Aspiration secured a total of $865 million in funding and hit a valuation of $2.3 billion in 2021, with investors ranging from Hollywood moguls to major corporations eager to polish their green image. The firm looked ready for an IPO that would lock in its place as a dominant force in environmental finance. Yet behind the glamorous facade of star endorsements and eco-friendly marketing, something much darker was happening. While Aspiration promised to plant trees and protect the planet, federal investigators later uncovered that many of those claims were either inflated or outright fabricated. Their so-called reforestation projects often lacked verification or never existed at all, turning their business structure into nothing more than a fragile illusion built on false assurances.
Knowledge out of all of the projects that Aspiration undertook for carbon offsets, there was only one site visit during my tenure.
Wait, so just to be clear, I'm looking at a spreadsheet with a zillion, approximately, projects having to do with forestation and tree plantings.
The true extent of Aspiration's fraudulent practices became undeniable in August 2025, when co-founder Joe Sandberg admitted guilt to swindling investors out of $243 to $248 million. Probed by the Department of Justice and the SEC revealed that the company had systematically deceived backers about its finances, performance, and environmental effectiveness. But the eco-fraud was merely the beginning. Tour's digging revealed that the most important and most hidden endorsement deal wasn't with any Hollywood star. It was with Kawhi Leonard. And the arrangement's details stunned even the most jaded observers of professional sports deals. The bankruptcy files that set off Tour's investigation showed KL2 Aspire LLC was owed a final $7 million payment on what turned out to be a 4-year, $28 million endorsement agreement. This deal wasn't ordinary. Sources inside Aspiration told Tour it had been specifically designed to sidestep NBA salary cap restrictions.
Was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. And I was looking for any information about KL2 Aspire LLC. And what happened was, a grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to.
The evidence Tour uncovered revealed careful coordination and intentional deceit. Internal paperwork confirmed that Leonard's deal was the largest endorsement in Aspiration's history, valued at more than 4 times the total of all their other celebrity contracts combined. But unlike the flashy deals that put Robert Downey Jr. in ad campaigns and had Drake giving interviews, Leonard's partnership was completely hidden from public eyes. This secrecy wasn't just a byproduct of Leonard's notoriously private lifestyle. Tour's thorough review found no proof of him ever promoting Aspiration. Not a single post, appearance, interview, or acknowledgement for a man being paid $7 million annually to endorse a brand. His promotional presence was entirely absent.
That I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration was this.
Ultimately, 0.
0. 0 times.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned Aspiration.
Kawhi Leonard's connection to Aspiration wasn't silent by accident. His lack of promotion wasn't hesitation or a slip-up. It was written directly into the deal. Tour got hold of the signed endorsement contract between Leonard's company and Aspiration, and the fine print exposed terms unlike anything seen in typical sports endorsements. The agreement was built from the start as a no-show job. But to understand why this arrangement was so dangerous, you have to look at the NBA's strict salary cap rules and the unique ties between Leonard, the Los Angeles Clippers, and their owner Steve Ballmer. The connections among Leonard, Balmer, and Aspiration wove together what league insiders now call a possible cardinal sin against the NBA's very principles of competitive fairness. The deeper story, however, lies in how this complex scheme was engineered and by whom. The architect of deception, how Steve Ballmer built the perfect crime. The relationship linking Steve Ballmer, Kawhi Leonard, and Aspiration may represent the most advanced attempt at bypassing salary cap restrictions in league history. With a fortune exceeding $100 billion and ranked as the world's 6th richest person, Balmer held the rare position of being both Aspiration's largest individual backer and the team owner paying its highest-paid covert endorser. The timeline shows a meticulously planned sequence that triggered nearly every red flag in the NBA's investigative handbook. In August 2021, Leonard signed a 4-year, $176 million extension with Clippers, seemingly a routine max contract. Just a month later, Balmer set the key piece of the plan in motion.
The month after that, it turns out, Steve Ballmer, this is September, broke ground on the Intuit Dome. Now, this is, David, the most expensive.
In September 2021, Balmer broke ground on the Intuit Dome, unveiling Aspiration as a founding partner in a staggering $300 million, 23-year sponsorship deal. This wasn't just another arena partnership. It was branded as a project that would make the Intuit Dome the planet's most sustainable sports venue, echoing Balmer's very public dedication to environmental causes. Yet the critical detail came from deep inside Tour's probe. In November 2021, only 2 months after Balmer's massive investment in Aspiration and the Clippers' partnership reveal, Leonard registered KL2 Aspire LLC with California state records. The timing was no accident. It laid the groundwork for what insiders later called a calculated attempt to bend NBA cap rules. The endorsement contract uncovered by Tour spelled out the scheme, a 4-year, $28 million deal beginning April 1st, 2022, Stacked with clauses so unusual, they essentially guaranteed Leonard could not violate the terms, no matter how little effort he put in.
You didn't have to do anything. There was a clause for an out in every single KPI. So they weren't actually key performance indicators, KPIs.
The wording of the contract was shockingly lenient, resembling a guaranteed payout arrangement more than a typical endorsement deal. Leonard was given full authority to oversee and approve every piece of content and distribution, meaning he could reject any promotional request from Aspiration without facing consequences. Another clause allowed Leonard to refuse any action the company proposed if he felt it conflicted with his personal beliefs. When David Sampson, former Miami Marlins president and a sports contract expert, analyzed the agreement during Tor's probe, he was stunned by what he found. The deal required Leonard to sign only 50 items if asked, engage in just 5 organic social media posts, and provide 1 photo per month throughout the NBA season. Even these bare minimum obligations, Leonard never actually completed.
You may wonder how many likes and retweets did he give?
Is it 0?
Of course it's 0!
Oh my God!
He did nothing! He literally did nothing!
But perhaps the most revealing clause in the entire contract.
Interview 1050, 11 o'clock. The most telling detail was hidden in the termination clause, which revealed the deal's true essence. The contract could be voided if Leonard was no longer employed by the Clippers for any reason, directly linking endorsement payouts to his ongoing role with the team. This condition made it clear that the arrangement wasn't about Leonard's star power or branding, but rather his status as a Clippers player. The financial setup enabling this plot was both sleek and incriminating in its simplicity. Balmer poured $50 million of his own money into Aspiration via his LLC, Poolpad.
Less than a month after that, December 2021, it was announced that Steve Ballmer, who is again hailed as the very best investor of the last 20 years, joined Oaktree Capital Management in investing a total of $315 million into Aspiration, which was subsequently valued at $2.3 billion.
Cash that became critical for funding Leonard's $28 million contract. This injection came as part of a larger $315 million fundraising round that valued Aspiration at $2.3 billion in December 2021. Interview 1147, 1212. According to Tor's 7 sources inside Aspiration, Balmer's massive contribution gave the company the financial muscle to cover Leonard's $28 million endorsement. One former Aspiration staffer, speaking with voice modulation to hide their identity due to ongoing federal probes, gave damning testimony about the deal's true purpose and how it was internally discussed. The insider admitted that Leonard's agreement was openly described within the company as salary cap circumvention, with executives joking about the arrangement while acknowledging it was improper. The contract stood as Aspiration's single biggest endorsement, worth 4 times more than all other celebrity deals combined, despite Leonard never doing any promotional work for them. Interview 1256, 1315. Balmer's role didn't stop at financing Leonard's payout. Internal emails accessed by Tor revealed the Clippers' owner actively opening doors for Aspiration, effectively acting as an unofficial ambassador and connector.
And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard, a $28 million organic marketing sponsorship deal with Kawhi. And that if I had any questions about it, essentially don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap, LOL.
Balmer's involvement extended far beyond just providing the...
In November 2021, Balmer personally linked Aspiration's co-founders with Intuit COO, praising their shared excitement for Clippers and the Intuit Dome project. The web grew even tighter when looking at how Leonard was first tied to Aspiration. In early November 2021, Clippers staff introduced Leonard to the company, right after his LLC was formed and just as Balmer's big investment was finalized. While such introductions technically fall within NBA rules, the timing and context raise major doubts about coordination and intent. The scheme's sophistication becomes clear when assigning roles. Balmer funded it through his investment.
Kawhi's uncle was calling.
Wait, this is Uncle Dennis.
Uncle Dennis. Uncle Dennis was calling, and Uncle Dennis demanded payment It was priority one. Like, it was something that had to be done, and it was crucial.
Aspiration acted as a payment channel, and Leonard received money that was technically separate from his NBA salary, but clearly attached to his Clippers status. The brilliance of this setup was its apparent legitimacy. Its effectiveness was proven by how long it stayed hidden. Despite Aspiration's loud Clippers sponsorship and flashy celebrity endorsements, Leonard's $28 million deal was never publicized, never announced, not even hinted at. The only reason it surfaced was through Tor's relentless digging. The truth only came to light thanks to Tor's deep dive into bankruptcy filings most people would never even glance at.
Weekly meetings about who was going to get paid what and when. And during those weekly meetings, Kawhi Leonard's contract was always set to be paid.
Even in a time of total financial hardship for the company. Why?
Internal emails he uncovered showed that even as Aspiration hit major financial trouble in 2022, Leonard's payments were always placed above every other obligation. Former staff revealed that during weekly meetings about who would and wouldn't get paid, Leonard's contract was constantly prioritized, even while employees and other creditors went unpaid. At the same time, the influence of Dennis Robertson, better known as Uncle Dennis and longtime advisor to Leonard, became more critical. Sources claimed Robertson would call Aspiration, demanding payments for Leonard, and these demands were treated as urgent orders, honored even while the company collapsed around them.
This list, how many of those, and these are all listed as deals, letters of intent, dated as of early 2021, before Balmer had made his big investment. How many of those are fake?
The highly structured nature of the entire arrangement showed intentional planning rather than random fraud or coincidence. The order of events, Leonard's contract extension, Balmer's huge investment, the Clippers sponsorship deal, and finally Leonard's endorsement contract, lined up in a way that pointed to deliberate coordination among all involved. While the parties denied any wrongdoing, the alignment becomes more damning when considering Balmer's background. As former Microsoft CEO and one of the richest men alive, he had both the money and the expertise to design intricate transactions that could slip under the radar.
Taylor, the owner of the T-Wolves, had worked out a side deal, and it was written on paper because they were afraid Glenn Taylor was going to die before the completion of that contract. It's a total side, fascinating story.
But this has the potential to be...
His investment in Aspiration wasn't just about eco-friendly ventures or profit. It was a mechanism that enabled Leonard's $28 million secret deal to exist, all while giving every party involved the cover of plausible deniability. But as with most elaborate frauds, this scheme couldn't withstand outside scrutiny. The stage was set for collapse, crushed under contradictions and federal investigation. The downfall was spectacular. The carefully spun web connecting Steve Balmer, Kawhi Leonard, and Aspiration unraveled once investigators closed in, exposing one of the boldest fraud operations in recent NBA memory.
You're one of the richest men in America.
They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me. At this stage, I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did, let alone the specific contract with Kawhi.
However, Balmer's defense...
The salary cap workaround shook the league's foundation and threatened to trigger the harshest penalties seen in over 20 years. The first cracks showed in 2022 when Aspiration began sinking financially despite pulling in hundreds of millions from celebrity investors. Former insiders later confirmed the company was failing to cover basic expenses while still ensuring Leonard's checks were cleared. That preferential treatment pattern eventually gave investigators the clearest proof of the true nature of Leonard's partnership with the company.
Mentioned as a cardinal sin in the NBA, and we'll always keep a watchful eye on that front. If any relevant evidence of improper benefits surfaces in the future, the league will reopen the investigation and pursue the charges yet again.
The broader implication...
The federal probe accelerated significantly during 2024 and early 2025 as multiple agencies, including the Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission moved to systematically dismantle Aspiration's operations. Their findings expose a recurring pattern of large-scale deception that went well beyond environmental exaggerations, pushing deep into investor fraud and financial misconduct. The investigation hit a pivotal moment in August 2025, when Joe Sandberg, Aspiration's co-founder and political personality, admitted guilt on 2 counts of wire fraud, acknowledging that he swindled investors out of at least $248 million. At the same time, the Securities and Exchange Commission lodged accusations that Sandberg had obtained more than $300 million from investors through fraudulent strategies that fabricated and misled stakeholders about fake revenues tied to sustainability services. His guilty plea unmasked the staggering extent of Aspiration's orchestrated fraud. The company not only falsified its financial status and invented revenue statistics, but also consistently lied about the impact of its environmental projects. Internal records disclose that nearly 90% of Aspiration's supposed deals and letters of intent were entirely fictitious, leaving investors such as Balmer thoroughly misled about the firm's real operations and potential. Interview 1927-1948. When Aspiration ultimately sought Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in March 2025, the credit report uncovered the massive scale of its financial liabilities and revealed associations previously concealed from the public eye. The Los Angeles Clippers appeared on the list as being owed $30 million from a failed sponsorship agreement, while KL2 Aspire LLC, the personal venture of Leonard, was owed $7 million for the unpaid final portion of his contract. This bankruptcy record became the defining document that unraveled the entire scheme once Tory uncovered his findings. The NBA's reply to Tory's exposure was immediate, firm, and demonstrated the gravity with which the league regarded these claims. Commissioner Adam Silver declared that the league would launch a full investigation into the accusations, with league insiders noting that the disclosures triggered real alarm across NBA offices as executives struggled to confront the consequences of such a complex evasion plan. Historical precedent indicates that if these accusations are confirmed, the fallout could be catastrophic for everyone tied to the case. The NBA has previously encountered just one similar incident of proven salary cap evasion in the modern era, the 2000 Minnesota Timberwolves scandal involving Joe Smith, which led to harsh repercussions, including multi-million-dollar fines, forfeiture of draft picks, and suspensions handed to both team ownership and executives. Interview 2105-2122. The ongoing matter with Leonard could trigger even harsher sanctions due to its much greater financial scope and the presence of federal fraud indictments under the 2023 Collective Bargaining Agreement. Initial violations can bring fines of up to $7.5 million, the loss of as many as 5 first-round draft selections, cancellation of player contracts, and suspensions aimed at executives or owners. For a franchise such as the Clippers, currently striving in their prime competitive years, the impact could be utterly crippling. For the Clippers organization in particular, the looming consequences stand as a nightmare scenario. The team risks losing multiple first-round picks right during its championship window, could be forced to absorb enormous financial punishments, and might even see Leonard's contract invalidated in full. Leonard had inked a 3-year, $153 million extension in January 2024, a deal that could be voided should the NBA determine it was linked to or enabled by the circumvention arrangement. Steve Ballmer's reaction to the escalating charges has been firm denial combined with assertions that he too was misled by Aspiration's fraudulent dealings. In extensive interviews with ESPN and other outlets, Balmer has consistently maintained that he was duped by Aspiration and was unaware of Leonard's endorsement arrangement or its specific terms. He stressed that the Clippers merely offered an introduction between Leonard and Aspiration, something technically allowed within current NBA regulations. Interview 2239-2256. Yet Balmer's defense encounters serious obstacles when weighed against a meticulous timeline uncovered by Tory and his clearly documented role in Aspiration's activities. Internal communications reveal Balmer directly assisting Aspiration in establishing business partnerships, showing enthusiastic approval for its collaborations, and keeping in regular contact with company leaders. His $50 million investment also arrived exactly when Aspiration required funds to cover Leonard's massive endorsement deal, casting doubt on the genuine nature of his involvement. These financial connections are now under direct scrutiny. The NBA's inquiry is focusing on whether Balmer's funding of Aspiration functioned as what investigators describe as a round-trip financing scheme, in which his investment ultimately circled back to compensate Leonard for remaining with the Clippers. Insiders from Aspiration have admitted that the arrangement was intentionally structured to bypass salary cap regulations, acknowledging that from the company's standpoint, the deal held no genuine business purpose. Leonard himself has preserved his trademark silence regarding the accusations, in line with his famously private nature and reluctance toward media engagement. Still, this lack of response could become a growing liability as the NBA probe intensifies and pressure builds for clarity. Commissioner Silver has previously made clear that salary cap evasion is considered a fundamental violation of the league's core values, and he vowed that the NBA would enact the harshest measures possible should the breaches be definitively proven. Interview 2400 Hours 22, 2400 Hours 35. The wider consequences of this controversy stretch well beyond immediate individuals, potentially redefining how the NBA regulates salary cap enforcement and sponsorship arrangements. Other league owners are reportedly urging firm action, viewing Balmer's suspected scheme as an unfair edge made possible by his extraordinary personal fortune. The situation has already sparked debates over possible reforms to NBA rules governing endorsements and sponsorships, especially those involving owners who hold direct financial ties to the companies engaged. Public sentiment has been overwhelmingly negative, with social media users emphasizing the unfairness of wealthy owners exploiting loopholes in salary cap systems designed to ensure parity throughout the league. The saga has attracted millions of views across digital platforms, with fans voicing strong outrage at the alleged misconduct and calling for heavy punishment. The scandal has further revived controversy surrounding Leonard's debated 2019 free agency, when the NBA had earlier looked into claims that his camp requested improper benefits from multiple franchises. As federal authorities continued dismantling Aspiration's fraudulent network, new revelations about the firm's dealings with Balmer, Leonard, and other notable figures are expected to surface. The simultaneous investigations by the Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the NBA opened several paths for accountability and may culminate in both severe criminal indictments and groundbreaking league sanctions, reshaping the future structure of professional basketball. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the boxes now showing on your screen to explore more related content.